This is not rocket science. Everybody knows this is going to happen, and it's about time that it stopped. And so to come back to rugby, the first three principles of rugby refereeing are safety, equity, and law. So if you're a rugby referee and you're facilitating a game whereby males are hitting females, you're not only throwing those principles out the window, which you signed up for, you're facilitating an assault by males on females, and you should be arrested as such.
Well, folks, going back to last year, our most viral video of 2023 was a report from Fergus, Ontario. We found out that there was a scandal happening in the sport of rugby, namely a biological male, Tommy Ash Davis, was playing with biological females. Now, we visited Fergus in July, and we confronted Ash and his teammates about why this was going on, and this was the result.
Hey, Mr. Davis, Ash, why are you doing this? I'm David Menzies, Rebel News.
Hi. No, you're not really a part of this. We're having a team chat now.
Okay, I'm just trying to ask some questions, ma'am.
But this is not the appropriate time for that.
Ash, do you take joy in injuring female rugby players? Are you lacking the skills to play with male players where you should be? You're a biological male, aren't you?
I got you.
No, we're gonna have
Right here? Thank you, sir.
No one.
Mr. Ash, are you a misogynist?
Thank you. Coming with me?
Please, thank you, please.
Hey, watch it.
We're just simply here to keep the peace, and that's kind of our role here today.
Oh, okay. I understand that, officer. Our role is practicing journalism, and we're just asking questions.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Was there any particular reason you were called? I mean, it's not for us, surely.
We were just told that there's a bit of a disturbance here, so we just wanted to make sure that everyone was behaving and
Well, actually,
breach the peace and such.
So as you saw, folks, interference, players being hysterical, some on the point of tears, and yet we were only asking about World Rugby rules being violated. That's right. Going back to 2020, World Rugby, the sport's international governing body, was way ahead on the transanity file. Namely, if you are a biological male, you do not get to play with biological females. Now, we meant to keep reporting about this, but incredibly, going back to last month when we showed up at Fergus, law enforcement has now been weaponized. Evidently, it's against the law to ask a rude question of a transgender, and yeah, it ended in a predictable fashion. Check it out.
Ash, Tommy, I see you're back playing against females. Why are you doing this?
If you talk to anybody here, make comments, rude comments, you will be charged as well.
Make rude comments. Is that a law, sir?
I'm telling you what the process is, sir.
Could you please tell me what the law is for rude comments?
You've got 5 seconds to leave or you'll be arrested for
Okay,
trespassing.
let's walk. So rude comments is against the law. Okay, then. Well, folks, I almost feel like Tarzan of the Apes. I'm in the bush right now. Did you see what that police officer said? If we make rude comments, I think he meant asking rude questions, but never mind. He's going to arrest us, and I asked him what the law is, and he didn't have an answer. Not only did we have eyewitnesses to this, folks, we have video evidence. I was nowhere near the lines of the field, and I was arrested for trespassing. It's very interesting. They couldn't just give me a ticket and say, be on your way. They had to do the Game of Thrones Cersei walk of shame. They had to make a spectacle to humiliate me in front of all these people and frog march me down to a police cruiser.
So there you go. I don't think we have any more interest in covering women's Fergus Highlander rugby, folks. I think those players, they've made their bed and they're entitled to sleep in it, regardless of the rules violations. Now, one thing is for certain, so few players, both male and female, will come out and call out this travesty. maybe it's cancel culture. Maybe they subscribe to the indoctrination that a so-called trans woman is a real woman.
As a woman. What is that?
But that's going to change right now. My guest is Jonathan Goldie. He is an ex-international Scottish rugby player and track and field star. And like us, enough is enough. In the words of Mr. Goldie, he's going to call out this outrageous and egregious accommodation. Jonathan, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, David.
Now, let's go over the basics as though we have to. There was a good reason that, with the exception of, say, auto racing and equestrian, the sports have always been divided down the sex line. Males and females play in separate divisions due to biology, and especially if we're talking about a full contact sport such as rugby. Jonathan, what is going on, given that, as I said in the preamble, this is against the rules of the international governing body?
Yeah, and what is going on? Well, as you said, World Rugby did go to do a study in South Africa, and they involved around 40 different people because they kind of saw what was coming. What's going on is you've got basically these rugby unions, Canadian Rugby Union, Rugby Ontario, who are just political bodies. They've been infested by the diversity and inclusion bunch, and now they're trying to force that and use rugby as a tool, as a vehicle for proving their point, which they're actually disproving in front of our eyes. And there's a reason why women's rugby exists, and most people I know will attest to that, and the reasons are thus. There are massive physiological advantages and differences which males have over females. For example, males are on average taller, they have bigger hands, they have longer arms, they have narrower pelvises, which leads to a more efficient running gait. They've got about 40% more upper body mass, 40% less fat. They've got larger fibers. They've got higher proportions of fast twitch fibers, which is your explosive movement. They have larger hearts, lungs, hemoglobin pools. They get fed more oxygen. You can go on forever. Most people, even if they don't know those little things, you can see it just by looking. And to bring it back to track and field, there's a reason why the top 10,000 sprinters, 100-meter sprinters in the US can beat the women's Olympic time.
You know, it is just incredible to me, Jonathan, that, I go back to COVID when we had what I call the COVID Karens lecturing us on follow the science, stay 6 feet apart, wear your face diaper, get your shots. And then suddenly when it comes to the science of, biology 101, and you went over the nitty gritty of biology 101 when it comes to male and female athletes, that is out the door when it comes to wokeism and political correctness in terms of the whole radical transgender movement. But John, my question to you is, it's woke, it's political correctness, but we have always been told public safety is paramount. Public safety reigns supreme. And I say, my friend, putting a man who was voted the hardest hitting male player the season before last with the male Fergus Highlanders rugby team in amongst females, that is a clear and present danger to females. Why is this being tolerated yet again?
Why is it being tolerated? Well, I'll tell you for a start. Yeah, you're right. It is extremely dangerous. And just about every male I've spoken to would agree with you. The problem is that a lot of people are scared to speak out for fear of being ostracized in their club. They're not going to get the next job on the board. It goes all the way through corporations, all the institutions, education, up to the top of government. But what I would try to emphasize is, when you put a 240-pound male, hard-hitting male on the field with a bunch of females, most of them are probably 120 to 150 pounds, there is going to be a serious injury. And it's just a matter of time. And there have already been injuries, as we've seen. I think the Toronto Sun reported on the women who've been put into hospital. This is not rocket science. Everybody knows this is going to happen. And it's about time that it stopped. And so to come back to rugby, the first three principles of rugby refereeing are safety, equity, and law. So if you're a rugby referee and you're facilitating a game whereby males are hitting females, you're not only throwing those principles out the window, which you signed up for, you're facilitating an assault by males on females, and you should be arrested as such. Furthermore, if you're a male standing on the sideline watching this and doing nothing, then you are complicit in that assault.
One of the first teams the Fergus Highlanders woman played was the Stony Creek Camels, and I believe three ladies on the Camels were injured thanks to tackles by Ash Davis. And one of the ladies said that she had been hit by larger female players than Ash Davis before. But when he went into her, it was like getting hit by a truck. And I would imagine that's due to muscle mass and muscle density. So it's not just a size thing, Jonathan. Even if Ash was the smallest player on the team, and he definitely is not, it would still be a miscarriage of justice out there on the field, I think.
Absolutely. And males are also a lot more aggressive. I mean, when you've got a guy that size hitting a female who's even the same size or half the size, it's essentially a car crash. And there's a reason why it hasn't happened now. And let's be quite clear. You'll hear the gender crowd talk about we need to be inclusive and all that. It's nothing to do with gender. Rugby is segregated by sex for a reason.
Yes.
There's nothing to do with gender, it's sex. There is no medical procedure by which a human being can change sex. And therefore, there should be no males on the field with females. It simply does not exist. And as such, what's happening now is frankly a disgrace, and it's going to end in some women getting hurt, possibly paralyzed, or even worse. And anyone with a brain cell can see that, and it's about time it stopped.
When we look at the acceptance of transgenders into a sport of their opposite sex, it is 100% a one-way street. And by that I mean whether it's rugby or swimming or volleyball or powerlifting, it is always a man pretending to be a woman as opposed to vice versa. Hey, listen, if you are a female and you say, I identify as a man, and you can make the men's team, I think you might be the greatest athlete on the planet. Yeah. I'd have no issue with that. But isn't it, an uncanny coincidence, Jonathan? It's all men passing themselves off as females who make the team.
Yeah, and you're right to say passing themselves off. But when you go into a sporting arena and then you use sport as a vehicle for this, you can't pass yourself off. I mean, the swimmer, the guy, Leah Thomas, in Penn State, managed to win the 400-meter heats by 40 seconds. By the previous year, he was swimming against males. What's happening now is average male athletes are infiltrating women's sport. And bodies like Rugby Canada and Rugby Ontario are allowing it to happen. And frankly, when women get injured because of this, it's them that holds responsibility. They are responsible for this, which is why I would say to any parent out there, do not under any circumstances allow your teenage daughter to go in the field with a male. You're putting your daughter in the worst possible risk of injury, and it's completely irresponsible. And I'm sure when it does happen, there's going to be some serious lawsuits going on, and these people need held accountable for what they're doing.
Folks, I know you love it when Rebel News brings you the other side of the story. Take this story, for example. This is way too radioactive for the mainstream media to handle, except for a couple of exceptions. So I'm going to ask a favor of you. Can you please go to rebelfieldreports.com? That's rebelfieldreports.com. We don't receive a nickel worth of government funding, nor would we take it if offered. Thank you so much in advance.